Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about manga versus anime and why certain people like manga and anime and the pros and cons that a lot of people don't realize about liking a certain one and only watching a certain version. So let's start with anime because it kind of merges together. I'll talk about manga too, and this is really where the problem comes about usually. So, a lot of people love anime and they only they only watch anime. And if you guys don't know the difference, anime is um, what you actually observe in video form on screens. So, any sort of motion or animation is usually anime. Manga is what you have to actually read on a book or on a scanlation online through actual reading of the panels of a page. And so it's basically reading versus watching the TV show episodes. And usually I find that people are extremely enthused about, that's right, anime. They love watching it. And I can understand why. I was always a manga reader to start off initially because almost all these great manga started as manga. They didn't start as anime. Even like the greatest ones, Dragon Ball Z, they started as manga. Now, obviously, there's plenty of great anime that have only been anime, but oftentimes they're either short, episodic series that only last 20, 30 episodes, or short films, or actual full-length films, like Spirited Away or Cowboy Bebop. And the thing with anime is, I understand where people are coming from. They love the animation, especially fight sequences. They just don't understand why they should watch panel by panel snapshots of a fight when they could see the full effect of a fight through the actual animation of it. Plus, it's in color, it's not black and white. Plus, it just looks a lot cooler, with the actually moving characters and all that stuff. It makes sense, and sometimes it is better. I'm not gonna lie. And again, I'm just gonna pump up the pros before I bring out the cons. But the next big thing is that it's something that's really cool to watch. When I started reading manga, the first one I read was Naruto, and when I got to the Naruto vs. Sasuke site, I had people just telling me, you should check out the anime. I always only watched anime, and I saw a lot of people just watching episodes. And then I was like, I'll check this out for this fight. This seems to be a huge fight, and it was. And it was arguably a lot better watching the fight than reading about it. Now, having said that, though, putting aside the great TV episodic anime like Dragon Ball Z, when that was on screen, first version, it was done so well, and it was probably arguably one of the only anime that was done better than the manga. I just loved the narrator's voice, how everything was depicted, how manly it was, and at the end of every episode, in that deep dark voice, they'd be like, and will Trunks be able to stop Cell? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. It was so manly, and characters were so muscular, and the fights caused massive explosions. It was amazing. But let's bring out the cons to reading anime or watching anime. I keep saying reading, I don't know why. The biggest one is that, well, there's a few. The first one is that, anime doesn't always get executed properly, and you can get a false sense of what's really good about a storyline. A great example is Toriko. Toriko is like one of the things where it's like, if I didn't start with reading the manga, if I didn't start with reading the manga and then later branching off into watching it and then coming back to the manga and then keeping up with both, I really don't know what the heck I would think of this whole thing. Because The anime was done by Funimation. It was animated by Funimation, and Funimation, I don't know why, facepalm really. I don't know why they do this, but they have a extreme reputation, a negative reputation for kidifying, and by kidifying I mean turning something that's mature content, that's pretty darn awesome, into something that's just like for children. Like, I think that was a bad business move on their part. If they had just followed with Dragon Ball Z and embraced the maturity and the blood and the actual content rather than what it did to Toriko, which is all this stuff with, like, if you just watch a Toriko episode, like, you understand what I'm talking about, the face palms. And it's one of those things where there's cheesy, almost too cheesy, upbeat music playing, adventurous music playing all the time. And all the characters are just too simplistic and like, yeah, let's get things done. And I can go on, but I think you get the general idea. And it's funny because I know people who I've convinced to watch or read Toriko, and I thought they would read it, but they were such anime-only junkies that they actually went out and bought and watched Toriko, the anime series, not the manga. And they still like it, but they're remarking on how it's kind of weird, kind of too upbeat, too much, and just too cheesy. And I mean, Toriko is one of those things where like you could make things so cheesy depending on how you depict it, because there's just like stuff like rainbow fruit. And I'm not gonna lie, there are parts in it that are like, it started off, I feel like, as a Shonen Jump sort of kids manga, but I guarantee you by chapter 300 it's changed, and I loved it. I love it for the maturity and all the plot twisters and amazing power levels that have occurred by chapter 300. But it really makes me think, because what about all those people who got into anime or found out about Toriko, or only read Toriko for the anime, I only watch Toriko for the anime? They're going to have a wrong impression of it. If you read the manga, it's a completely different thing. And I would say, roughly the anime follows the manga pretty strictly, but that bridges off to the next big thing with anime. Oftentimes, for whatever reasons, because the television station or the creator of the anime, they are asked, or they decide to make all these filler episodes. So what that means, if you guys don't know, is like these are episodes not based on the original creator. It's just someone made. And the general population who's not really deep in the anime, they're like, well, who cares? Well, the reason is because if it's filler, then it's not by the original creator. It's like if J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter, right? And the people who made the films started pulling out like 10-minute scenes that had nothing in common with the book, and they were just like poorly written and just add in screen time so that the people would watch it, except in TV show format. That's kind of what's going on. And the reason is, like, for many folk, they make more money off of it. They get you to watch more commercials. They're commissioned, and sometimes they create filler episodes or actual films, spin-off films, in order to make a lot of money, because they know that the population is willing to buy it. A lot of people are willing to buy it. It happened a lot with Dragon Ball Z and a lot of stuff. But again, it's like, it's not by the original creator. This person doesn't know what it's doing. And occasionally you'll have someone good, but filler just has a reputation for adding a lot of crap. And oftentimes the average observer doesn't even notice. He can't tell. And it's just this piece of crap thrown in there that's like, what's going on? And then they start thinking, wow, the creators really got it wrong, or the production's really gone downhill, or this show's really gone downhill, and it wasn't even by the original creators. So that's another huge con with anime. And then the next big thing, again, I'm not just dishing out on anime. Again, a lot of these things apply to manga as pros and cons, as I mentioned. a con to manga is that it's black and white. You get short sequences, but we'll get to that. The next thing though is with anime, it's one of those things where you have that great animation and stuff like that, but the filler adds in a lot of stuff to not just the plot, but oftentimes to fight sequences. They'll add in ridiculous stuff, or they'll just add in a random story that they pulled out of their head, like a mini story that doesn't affect the actual plot, but it's just like a little filler story to add in another episode. They do it in Toriko as well. And it's one of those things where it's like, in this one episode, they end up like all of a sudden stopping their journey, their adventure, and then like doing the most random stuff, like swimming in the ocean, going to the beach, and then like this minor trivial problem where they save some person's life and then they go back on their adventure. It's like this whole thing that doesn't affect the actual plot that they just throw in there. And so I think those are the two big ones. There's minor ones too, and again, it's just small stuff you have to address. And I think generally, like, the best thing to do is really check out both. I exceptionally prefer the manga because if you watch just the anime, like, it'll probably take you 3, 4, 5 times longer because of how they extend out the episodes. And it really depends on who's producing it and creating these TV episodes based on the manga. I really do feel that if Toriko was made by the people who turned Dragon Ball Z into a TV series, it would be completely different. It would have a much higher impact. Heck, I mean, if they even took the people who helped with the Naruto TV episodes, and even One Piece. I mean, One Piece is hard. I don't know about that, but point is, it's kind of weird. Anyhow, yeah, even though One Piece wasn't, in my opinion, done that well in anime form, it's just very interesting to see like how Toriko was somewhat butchered. And it's interesting because even though it's so butchered, people who only have come across or stumbled across Toriko through the anime or have been introduced to it by me, they still like Toriko a lot. So imagine if they read the manga. And I mean, I'm not going to butcher Funimation that much. They did Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which in my opinion came out pretty darn good. And they didn't make it that kiddish. And also, like, I mean, at the same time, it's like they still follow the plot line of the manga fairly well, and you can substitute it for the manga for quite a long period of time, like I did when I started off with Toriko. And save for those filler episodes, which you can identify if you look for them and just skip them, it's quite interesting. But yeah, again, I don't want to keep hyping Toriko, but if you read the manga, blow your mind. The anime, first 200 chapters is decent, but it really is just too slow of a pace initially. Anyhow, finally, just to cap it up, minor pros and cons I mentioned for the manga already, and some more. Black and white, you don't get any animation. Pros are that oftentimes manga comes first, so you will get the new release from the original creator, who usually has the great mind and the plot and all those plot twisters and great amazing chapters and plots and characters. You will usually get the releases earlier. So what that means is the manga almost always comes before the animation. Therefore, if you run out of episodes to watch, rather than just waiting and saying, "Oh, I can't wait to see what happens next," you can read the manga and then find out what happens next if you can't wait. And there's usually hundreds of chapters ahead. Unfortunately, you get a lot of people who are such anime adherents that they can't do manga, and even though they finish the episodes, they would rather wait for the next episode to be created and released rather than watching or reading the manga. Now, for me personally, there's some really, really great animes that are done pretty darn well as animations, even though they started off as manga. One is Attack on Titan. One not as good but still decent is Hunter x Hunter. And for both of these, I was just so deep into them, but that by the time I got to the last episode release, I could not wait anymore. I just wanted to know what happened so badly. Probably because their plots were so good, especially Attack on Titan. And I couldn't wait, and I delved into the manga. And for me, it wasn't that big a switch. I didn't really care. I was a manga reader from the start, and I was just so excited to see what happens next. And it was pretty darn awesome, honestly. And so I think it's great for both. It's great aspects for both. But go ahead and leave in the comments what you think, what you enjoy about either one, what you hate, and request for future videos. Anything you want to say. As always, like this video, share with your friends, comment, and subscribe. It'll let you know when I upload a new video. And if you're a great person and you find manga interesting and anime interesting, go ahead and leave a like to this video and hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys later. Peace.